Once again, time to check in with our 35th District Representative Dan Griffey. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm great. I was talking with a gentleman yesterday from the Port Orchard Anacortes area, and he says, I love these conversations while they don't necessarily directly impact me, because you guys are talking a lot about 35th District things. It is nice to hear about a whole host of things that are happening across the state that the House Republicans are looking into. And so people are listening all across and even outside the 35th. So let's
Well, that's
keep.
good news for old KMAS. I love
Yeah,
it,
hey,
Jeff.
every once in a while, I suppose. What are you guys? I'm looking at kind of the House Republicans.wa.gov website, and you guys have a couple of detailed facts in there that come from different reports and centers and things like that. And one of the things you and I have talked about for years now is the cost of child raising a child, and how expensive it is for childcare, how expensive it is for, making that decision of whether or not we want to head off or have the ability to go off and work. Well, if we go off to work, we got to have childcare, and it really kind of almost sometimes is kind of a level there. Whatever you make goes directly into that. What are some of the things that the House Republicans are working on trying to encourage the majority party there to say we got to figure some stuff out, incentives or I don't even know how you would do it, but what's going on with let's start with
Well, I
childcare.
mean, if we're going to talk childcare, the state broke it. The state needs to fix it. So availability of childcare sits squarely on the shoulders of the majority party. Unfortunately, to get certified to run a daycare, a childcare center, they want you to have high degree level. And you know what most people want, Jeff, is they want predictable, safe, and secure, loving environment, right? They
Right.
want their kiddos to be safe. They want to make sure they're fed well, and they want them to have secure environment. The majority turn to every opportunity, every daycare opportunity in this full immersion child care, child learning centers. What the House Republicans would like to see is a tiered system where you have loving, safe, and secure would be one level that you can choose as a parent. And then the next tier would be somebody probably in transition to get the full certification. But we have got to admit to ourselves we broke this thing. The availability of providers is the state of Washington's fault. The majority will say that we're just fear mongering on all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely the truth. There is no question about it. Our policy is what caused it. We need to change our policy. And House Republicans are trying to change strategies. There's several strategies this year: online certification, quicker certifications for those interested in going into childcare. But we just made it too difficult.
How is childcare in that sense, and maybe because it's in a home or it's in a center, how is that different than when, if I drop Kaiser off for summer camp, right?
Yeah.
And the people who are watching him for the day are, high schoolers or college level people back from college, but they don't have master's degrees or bachelor's degrees or anything like that. It's their summer job is to be essentially like a camp counselor. How is that different than what is asked for now and looked at now when it comes to requirements?
Well, Jeff, there's no difference, right? I mean, what parents want is a suite of options, and it used to be that you had a suite of options from in my time, the 16-year-old babysitter that my parents employed in a short period of time, or family that they relied on. The state it's all about reimbursement. So if you are running a childcare center in Washington State, the state of Washington pays for a lot of that for most of the low income. And so the centers that open can't afford to just take cash only payments. They have to have a widespread reimbursement amount. And the state is the biggest provider of those reimbursements. And what parents need is a choice and a suite of options. Like I said, like you just said, akin to what you were talking about. They need a loving, safe, secure um, uh, options. And with more options, you'll see more availability. More availability, you'll see the price go down.
And I don't know if this is a similar through line here, but we have, and we've talked too about this, how litigious our society is, and people are suing folks for this, that, and the other thing. Are there ways that, let's say there's a person in our neighborhood that says, "Well, I'll watch the kids right after school for the day." And so, we take Kaiser over there or whatever, and then they're going to be there until we get off work or whatever. But there's a way that they're protected. I don't know if that's like a not is that that's called hold harmless or some sort of way that kind of in keeps them from
Liability protection is what you're
liability.
speaking.
Yeah, yeah, some sort of. I mean, is that a way that we can open up these more? I mean, Mason County is in the 35th, parts of the 35th are just they're what childcare deserts is what I
They
think
are
the
absolutely.
buzzword is. And so
I can't believe we're talking about a desert in this current weather.
I
Goodness
know
gracious.
it's stormy, but regardless, how do you, I mean, how do you get ramp up enough of these places so people are able to find, good work and able to take care of their overall house?
Well, in-home certifications, there are a myriad of people that are facing the same problems that you're talking about. They have to balance whether the going to work works in their family dynamic. Do they need to be home for their kiddos? Are they home educating them? We need to do quicker certifications of in-home childcare, licensed childcare centers. And like I said, it has to be a suite of options, starting with, safe, secure DSHS would do home inspections and make sure that the home meets the minimum safety requirements. Also, the consumer beware, right? The consumer goes and does a on-site visit. I guarantee you, if any of my kiddos were ever taken to a child care center, there would be a thorough inspection on my own.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we got to go. We got to, it will give some folding cash to those young mothers or young fathers that are finding that making that choice of whether I go to work or stay home and watch my kiddos. It'll make that choice easier for them. It'll bring some money into the family. And then it'll also bring extra childcare opportunities. And I think that's the way we got to do it. We've got to make the certification of those childcare centers easier and then give them a pathway to full-blown, early childhood education certification or licensure, or if they want to just stay in that gap for a long period of time, it's up to them.
We talked a little bit last week about federal stuff, and I'm only going to bring it up again here too because of our proximity to the Olympic National Park. Have you heard anything about any furloughs or potential closures or some inabilities for folks over the course of the spring and summer to be able to visit the national parks? I don't think I'm as necessarily interested or concerned about the state parks that we have around Mason County in the 35th, but access in to the Olympic National Park system.
No, I have not heard anything like that to the office. I've not had any communication with any of our federal partners on any of that sort of thing. Anecdotally, I mean, I guess I've been seeing it, every once in a while when I have the time to watch the news when I get home, but I get home pretty dang late, so
Yeah,
it's an abridged watching a news, and then I listen to radio programs in the morning. There is some fear for that.
because that's a huge, I mean, that'd be a huge fiscal impact for all of us around the park. If,
yes.
and I don't even know how you close, you put a little chain against the gate and say, sorry, closed, that could lead to a whole host of other issues, I guess.
Well, I mean, we'll have to all wait and see. I don't know. It's hard to get in front of something that's completely out of your control.
Yeah.
What we do is we'll write letters to our congressional partners. Our congressional partners will put pressure on those people from the Park Service. But we're always willing and able to take action on any of those if we find that it is becoming problematic. Every administration change, we see kind of a whirlwind, almost our heads spinning. We
Hmm.
saw it during President Obama's change. He said elections have consequences. We saw it definitely when 8 years later, when President Trump took over. Again, I don't know that there was the election has consequences posture as much, but they did. And so there is a changing narrative. The ability of the United States to reinvent itself over almost overnight is something that well, I enjoy and I champion, right? The country kind of had enough of some things and maybe they didn't quite have enough of the other and getting where we all land, it should be a journey. And I tell everybody, don't worry about it as much don't watch TV as much. The disruptive time, hopefully it's not, going to be much longer, right? But I want to encourage people that, you know, when something's completely out of your control, don't worry about it as much as if it's completely in your power and you can do something about it, right?
And that is what's so great about localized government, local government, in the major towns that we have in the 35th, or even conversations that we have with you. I've there's a lot of folks that, ring in their hands, so they'll come up and say, "Oh, Jeff, this, that, and the other thing." I go, "Well, that could be true, but what are you going to do about it? I mean,
Well,
really,
I
at
mean,
this point,
I'm elected to do something about it, so I will listen and I will exercise the power of the office to get what my constituents need to the extent that I can. And I fail sometimes, but a lot of times we're very successful
yeah."
in getting those things addressed and heard. I think we're all wait and see right now, Jeff. It is disruptive. It does feel disruptive. Again, I'll just remind everybody, it's kind of been disruptive every time we've had an administration change, and I guess the administration, the chief executive of in a republic that we exist under, they have a lot of power to administer the laws and customs of the United States of America, and we're kind of in a wait and see pattern how that fits.
It is, we had one of the deadlines, kind of the cutoff legislative deadlines here recently. What are some of the things that passed that you were a little concerned about? What didn't make it through? I know stuff's not always 100% dead, but when it comes to that, what made it through that you're a little concerned that could see a signature at the end of session versus some things that maybe you've been advocating for?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few things that I've been advocating for, actually my bills that are making it through. But talking first, resentencing of those that are currently incarcerated. It's very problematic, Jeff, in that I really do believe society has the right to establish rules for participation and also punishment for violation of those rules. Now, we've let considerable, in about last 5 years, we've let nearly three-quarters of the state incarcerated population out. So we don't have a problem where we're over incarcerating any longer. So that's not a good argument. But society should have a rock bed understanding knowledge that we've established rules and we've also established sanctions or punishment for violation of those rules. And we've also determined, murder, rape, and those sort of things are extra cruel and are going to need extra punishment. So the resentencing it puts judges in a position of being partisan instead of being the kind of the partisan, not maybe in a political sense, political party sense, but be an interested party in the outcome, right? So the judge is supposed to weigh all the evidence, and with a blindfold, kind of blindfold, they're supposed to weigh what they've heard and, deliver an opinion. Prosecutors right now, the way that the current system works, prosecutors can ask for a court hearing and grant resentencing. Um, I just don't think that is the right way to go right now. The people that are still incarcerated, nearly 14,000 people, have committed some pretty terrible crimes. So that really worries me. Um, Allowing people to expunge their DUIs, I think too early. Um, Definitely puts Washington State in a position that we're creating more dangerous situations on our road. Right now, our highway traffic deaths are through the roof. We can't process the blood samples right now quickly enough. Our state toxicology lab is about a year and a half behind on samples. And it's very complicated because the actual toxicologist that completes the sample must testify in court. So we have 8 toxicologists in Washington State, and they have to take nearly a whole day off of work
Uh-huh.
every time that they have to testify. And our DUIs, people get DUIs in every county of the state of Washington. The state toxicology lab does all of that work. So I'm concerned that we might not give the WSP the money that they need to get the toxicology lab to turn those tox screenings around, because we don't install a blow and go in the car
Right.
until that until the process is fully complete. Because it's taken so long, a lot of them are not going to prosecution. They're being dismissed. We've got to turn that around.
So when it comes to prosecutors and judges making discretionary calls on this, we may have talked about this over the past couple of years too, but is this now an opportunity to look at changing the sentencing leeway, or if they're kind of just letting folks go for this, that, and the other. Is it more of a conversation then to change the sentencing structure and make it this is what happens when you commit X crime, and
Yeah,
whether or
I
not
mean,
that's lower across the board because the average amount of time spent in jail for crime blank is, 30 days. So then that's the sentence. Or how does
well,
that conversation come about?
this resentencing would be people that are, 20 years to life,
Uh-huh.
usually in a three strikes offense. The defender side likes to point out, well, sometimes it was just a drug possession crime. And, you know, Jeff, um, prosecutors, when they found, back in the day when they were making charging decisions, decided that this crime, because the punishment would be 20 years to life, we'll plead down a couple of these crimes. So they didn't even get, weren't even found guilty, or weren't even charged for the real heinous stuff that they did.
Mm-hmm.
But the defenders are saying, well, these were, this was a gross misdemeanor, the last one that gave him his strike. That shouldn't be. Now we consider that a gross misdemeanor that gave him the third strike, but they ignore the rape and the murder that came before it, right? Before the the strong arm robbery that was pled down
I see what you're saying.
to a lower crime. Um, it is, I think, there is a pathway to let those people out there. And Rep. Lauren Davis, I know I bring her up on this program quite a bit, but as far as the majority party, she's enlightened in a lot of the things that she thinks. She has a an amendment to a couple of these resentencing bills that I actually am encouraged by, that is very victim centric. So if the person who survived the incident that this person is being held for is consulted and can have the final say, then we transfer it to the Clemency and Pardons Board, because that is the way that people get out. The Clemency and Pardons Board then would review the case, and it would go to the governor for clemency or pardon. Clemency and pardon, both of them they have different legal terms, and there's different stigma attached with either one of them. But I think that is a real process that I would be willing to support. as long as it was victim centric.
So it's a kind of
Um,
a, I guess, a forgiveness model
yeah.
where if
Uh,
you're the if you're connect if you're the victim of the crime and you, for whatever reason, choose to forgive this person for what they did to you, there may be some recourse for them.
Well, yeah, and then the other thing is they have real-time communication with the prosecutors and the system, what the fears that they still have. There are people that are incarcerated that find proxies to harass survivors, and it happens all the time. It gives them the chance to say, "Yeah, that's happening," or "No, that's not happening." And the Clemency and Pardons Board, that's the way to do it, not putting our judges in a role of defenders requesting a resentencing hearing. Then the judge just strikes the gavel. It says, "Okay, I believe that you have rehabilitated, so I'm going to let you out." It's not the process we use. I don't think it's the right process. I
Hmm.
mean, some of the good news, there's a lot of good things here as we've increased the penalty for rape that results in pregnancy
Right?
uh, quite a bit. I gave a speech on the House floor that I believe rape should start at that punishment and we should move up. Domestic violence survivors and sexual assault survivors, I've talked on this, many times on your show, are not treated very well in our court system. They're
Right.
literally on their knees begging for help. There's a couple of bills that I think would negatively impact the survivor, domestic violence, sexual assault survivor in court, that I'll be fighting against.
What is
Um,
going on with and you talked about this last session, I believe, all the backlog in the rape kits and things like that. And is there a way to transition or add into that some of what we were just talking about when it comes to toxicology
isn't that funny? I mean, I
backlogs?
had the same idea. There's a very little chance of the two um, working well together. However, they are toxicologists and they do work with DNA. Patrol is telling us that they need all of the people working the DNA that they can have, and that taking from one would leave a deficit in that one. And so what we have to do is build the capacity in the other. And
Uh,
so no, it doesn't cross well. The backlog is complete and the turnaround is quick, very quick. It is survivor centric so that the survivor will get results and be in communication with the test lab. And so they'll know that their sample was tested and that the DNA was, if DNA was recovered, it was uploaded. So we have fundamentally, in the last 11 years of us talking, fixed all of that, and we're, going light warp speed into the future on it. So I'm very happy to say that.
that's
The
great.
toxicology thing is that's important. We've got to get on top of the amount of people that are dying on our roadways under the influence or causing death under the influence. And these people are repeat offenders. If they cause a fatality, they probably got away with it 100 times. That's
Sure.
kind of the ratio that is well understood here in Olympia. Um,
35th district. I'm going to let you go. I know you got busy things to do today, and you're always, let's leave it on kind of that good note about your rape kit testings. I know that was near and dear to your heart. And
well, we
well,
saved George. George is going to stay on the flag.
I did see, hold on now, because I did see a picture, and I wish he was here with us, but I know he's busy. Travis on his Instagram page
Yes.
had a coffee mug that says, George is my homeboy. And so I wondered what
Yep.
happened there. They
It
dropped all
sounds
that?
like the bill didn't make it out of committee, and so yes, we are not going through the tomfoolery and a budget crisis of of spending the time and effort in redesigning our state flag. And so George is safe.
Maybe one of the lessons during a class period at school would be how to draw George, because that again was one of the issues was that it's too difficult to
Well,
recreate on thing.
they say that, but it maybe, I guess. Like
You have a
I
trace
you could
page.
yeah, I mean yeah. I think it's silly. But I'm glad we saved George.
Yeah, no, that's it. Save that one for the next time. 35th District Representative Dan Griffey, it's always nice talking with you, and I know that you continue to focus your attention on the 35th and the good folks there, and you can always get in touch with Dan through his House Republican website. I'll put the link to that too in the show notes. We'll talk next week, Dan. How's that sound?
Yes, take care, Jeff. Thank you
All right,
so
buddy.
much.
Bye.